Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and Pokemon fans of the world, Mega Crasher is here, and I want to apologize for my rather sweaty appearance and if I sound a little bit out of breath. I just got home from the gym from an intense shoulder workout, and I will be actually uploading footage of that workout later on after making this video. Now, this video is a follow-up of sorts from my last Smogon video where Smogon had announced the suspect testing of Salamence in the underused tier. Now, this video is going to have more in-depth discussion on Salamence, on its typing, ability, stats, movesets, and of course the Pokemon that can check and counter this Pokemon effectively. Now, I would like to make a disclaimer right now that some of the things I say in this video are my opinion and my opinion alone, so if you disagree with me, then please feel free to let me know in the comment section down below, and that way we can spark up a discussion, because I love hearing from you guys, especially from videos like these, because some of the discussion videos that we've had, and you guys partook in it, and commented some really, really good discussion-worthy material, I was blown back by what I learned from you guys. I mean, I learn from you guys every single day, you know? And we grow every single day, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I love making videos like these. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and carry on to the analysis portion of Salamence. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so Salamence has the Dragon Flying typing. Now, at first, when you think of Dragon Flying typing, you think that it's not really that good of a defensive typing, mostly because of its very exploitable 4x weakness to Ice, which is a very spammable offensive type. But if you take a look at the amount of resistances versus the amount of weaknesses this typing has, it's actually a really, really good typing if you think about it. Check me out on this. One, you have an immunity to ground-type moves, which are also very dangerous and very spammable, but Salamence has the flying typing to protect it from ground-type moves. On top of that, you have a 4x resistance to grass-type attacks, which is also very good. You also have a 2x resistance to the likes of Bug, Fighting, Fire, and Water. Now, these are pretty key resistances, especially if you factor in the fact that Bug and Fighting are both two very dangerous typings offensively because of the legs of Heracross, which is a very scary Pokemon in the underused tier. But Salamence checks and counters this Pokemon pretty damn effectively if you ask me. Now, of course, this is where the light at the end of the tunnel sort of fades off, because now we get to the weaknesses, that being to Dragon, Fairy, Rock, and its 4x weakness to Ice. And because it's weak to Rock, that also means that you're going to be weak to Stealth Rocks, which does cripple this Pokemon to a certain extent, especially if it's taken damage previously upon switching in. Now, there are ways around dealing with these said weaknesses. If you know how to build teams effectively around Pokemon such as Salamence, then, you know, more often than not, it'll often pan out for you when it comes to using Salamence effectively in battle. Now, moving on to the abilities, the first ability is known as Intimidate. Now, I find this to be more of a defensive ability because what this does is it lowers your opponent's attack stat by 1 stage. If you want to run a more bulky, invested sort of Salamence, then Intimidate is a pretty damn good ability. I mean, if you want to be full-on physically defensive with Intimidate, kind of be like the underused version of Landorus Therian, you know what I mean? Just minus the Stealth Rocks and U-turn and knockoff. But you can also run a special defensive nature with a bit of physical investment if you want. But it's really up to you. You can even use this ability on an offensive set. That way you still remain as a pretty decent check/counter to any physical attackers. Now, of course, its next ability is one hell of an ability known as Moxie. And this is what makes fully offensive Salamence just that much more scary, because check this out. For every single time you knock out an opponent's Pokemon, your attack stat goes up by 1 stage. So, once you are able to get a good setup going, and you start accumulating Moxie boosts, you're essentially snowballing your attack stat into an unstoppable level. Whereas even the likes of Fairy-type Pokemon can't even switch in safely, because more likely than not, this Pokemon will be carrying either Iron Tail or Earthquake or something like that. Now, moving on to the stats, you can tell that this Pokemon actually doesn't have that bad of stats. Like, just check me out on this. Like, its two lowest stats comes in its base 80 defense and base 80 special defense, but if you combine its HP with those two defensive stats, it's really not that bad. Like, even offensive Salamence can actually take hits when it needs to. And that base 135 attack, holy shit, man. That is crazy. And its base 110 special attack is actually really good. I mean, sure, you don't have a way of boosting up your special attack, but, you know, being able to use your base 110 special attack on a mixed set is actually very good. And that base 100 speed is just, it's perfect. I mean, sure, it sort of fits in the average speed tier slot of base 100, but base 100 speed for Salamence is a pretty good speed tier. I mean, let's be real here. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so the next part of this video, we're going to be going over some sets real quick that you can use for Salamence, and we have a few sets here, so I'm not going to take up too much time, because I feel like that if I was to break each of these sets down, it would make this video a lot longer than necessary. But just to kind of show you the versatility of Salamence in battle, let me just show you guys some sets that you can run here. So we have the offensive variant, the Dragon Dance plus 3 attack set. We got the Dragon Dance, which boosts your attack and your speed by 1 stage. We have your choice of Dragon Stab, that being either Outrage or Dragon Claw. Outrage is base 120 power, but it does lock you in, and you cannot switch out until you are finished with the Rampage from Outrage, but then you get confused. Whereas Dragon Claw, on the other hand, has no drawbacks whatsoever, but it is significantly weaker at base 80 power. But it's really up to you. Do you want more power or more reliability? Like I said, it's up to you. The next move slot, you can either use Fire Blast or Earthquake. Fire Blast takes care of any bulky Steel-type Pokemon, such as Mega Aggron, such as Steelix, such as the likes of Chestnut as well, which would otherwise give this set a lot of trouble. But we also have Earthquake, on the other hand, which does take care of the likes of Nidoqueen, Nidoking, as well as Arcanine and Empoleon, just name a few. It's really up to you. But I will point out that having Fire Blast on the set does make this Pokemon a really nifty mixed attacker, which is just an added benefit to add on this set when it comes to using Salamence. So watch out for that. Watch out for that. And the last move, it's really up to you. We do have Iron Tail for Fairy-type coverage, but we do have Earthquake should you choose to use Fire Blast in your third move slot. But like I said, it's really up to you. The last 2 move slots are totally dependent on what your team lacks in for coverage. Now, we have the choice to use either Intimidate or Moxie. I personally am a Moxie user when it comes to a set like this, because when you find the opportunity to knock out your opponents, you get a free attack boost from Moxie. So there you go, right? And the Naive set, which lowers your special defense and increases your speed. Run Naive if you're going to be running Fire Blast, but run Jolly if you are not going to be using any special attacks in this set right here. And you can also choose for items, either a Lumberry or a Life Orb. Life Orb gives you more power at the cost of 10% of your health, whereas Lumberry protects you 1 time from any status affliction, so that's really good too. So if we go ahead and move on to the next set here, we have the all-out attacking set. We have a specially based mixed attacker with 4 attack, 252 special attack, 252 speed. We got Draco Meteor as your dragon type stab. It is a really powerful base 130 special attack. However, and this is a big however, the biggest drawback of this move is that you lose 2 stages of your special attack, which means that this Pokemon suddenly does become crippled when it comes to its special attack. But have no fear, because I got something for you in just a moment. The next move that we have is going to be Fire Blast, which roasts any Steel-type Pokemon, and roast Chestnut that try and switch in, and make Salamance's life a living hell. Now, the third move slot, we have Outrage. Outrage is what is going to make this set just that much more lethal, because of the fact that just because you use Draco Meteor and your special attack is down, well, that doesn't mean that your physical attack is down. Oh, hell to the no. And that's what makes this Pokemon just that much more scary in battle. But we do have some other options, such as Defog and Iron Tail. Defog gets rid of entry hazards from both sides of the field, and Iron Tail is for your Fairy-type coverage. And then the last move slot, we do have Roost, and we have Iron Tail and Earthquake to choose from. Now, me personally speaking, I would choose Earthquake, because we want to make this set all-out offensive. I mean, you can choose to use Roost if you want to keep this Pokemon healthy and alive, but I feel like that you're missing out on very important coverage if you sacrifice the use of Earthquake, in my opinion. And for the third move slot, I would go ahead and just go for Outrage, because while the utility of Defog is nice and the Fairy-type coverage of Iron Tail is nice, I feel that it's just too big of a crime to sacrifice the use of Outrage in a set like this. Now, as for the ability, I would choose Moxie, because with a set like this, it's pretty damn easy to be able to get a Moxie boost, because you are running two offensive stats, that being your attack and your special attack, so it's really easy to be able to potentially net a KO with a stab Draco Meteor or a stab Outrage. I mean, it is ridiculously powerful, especially with the Life Orb boosting it. GG, my friends. So let's go ahead and move on to the next set here, and this is the bulky Salamence set. So we have ourselves the first move is going to be Roost, which is obviously going to be the most important move of this set, in my opinion, because it heals 50% of your maximum health, keeping this Pokemon alive. The next move that we have is going to be Dragon Claw, so that way you have Dragon-type Stab, and you'll have some way of hitting decently hard with your uninvested base 135 attack. The next move, you can either use Earthquake or Toxic. Earthquake to take care of Steel-type Pokemon, and Toxic to punish any switch-ins, such as Chestnut, such as Fairy-type Pokemon, what have you know what I mean? Toxic's a really good move. And the last move slot, it's really up to you. You can use Dragon Tail as a way to cause damage and phase out your opponent, or you can use Roar, that way that even if Fairy-type Pokemon switch in, they're not immune to Roar. They may be immune to Dragon Tail, but they're not immune to Roar. And then lastly, we have Defog as a way to give this Pokemon even more utility and get rid of entry hazards. Now, I will say that if your team lacks Defog, then Defog is a must on this set right here. As a matter of fact, my preference is actually Defog over these two moves. Me personally speaking, I would run Roost, Aerial Ace, Earthquake, and Defog. Now, the reason for Aerial Ace is so that we can nail any pesky Chestnut switch-ins, because those bastards are everywhere when it comes to the underused here. And we have the Intimidate ability being the best ability, in my opinion, for this set, because it drops your opponent's attack stat by one stage, giving you even more physical bulk. And we have the Impish Nature to cut out the special attack and increase the physical defense. And yeah, just we have your traditional sort of defensive spread. We have a little bit of speed, that way you'll be able to find some outspeeds with base 70 speed and below Pokemon. And also, I'm reading down here that the 24 speed EVs allow Salamence to outpace any Adamant Haunch Crow. So that right there can also be good too. Now, if we go ahead and scroll down here, we got one more set to cover, and that right there is your traditional Choice Scarf set, sorry. And I'm not going to really go too much into detail. It's kind of self-explanatory. You throw on a Choice Scarf, which increases your speed by one stage, but locks you into a move. You can use Outrage, just spam the crap out of it, but you are locked in for 2 to 3 turns. But if you don't want to be locked in, just sort of want to be a hit-and-run Pokemon, you can use Dragon Claw if you want. The next move, it's really up to you. You can use Earthquake or Fire Blast. Personally speaking, I'm an Earthquake over Fire Blast kind of guy in this situation right here, because I want to make use of Moxie, which is going to be the ability of choice right here. And then lastly, we got Iron Tail, because Iron Tail is pretty much going to be needed when it comes to your offense options against the likes of Fairy-type Pokemon. But that's just me. Now, you're going to obviously want to run a Jolly Nature, but you can run a Naive Nature if you are running a special attack like Fire Blast. However, if you're not running any special attacks whatsoever, then make sure that you run a Jolly Nature, that way the wrong stats are not compromised. And that's pretty much it for the sets right here. So before we move on to the next section, I kind of just want to point out that this Pokemon does have its fair share of checks and counters. Let's go over this list real quick. So Porygon 2 is one counter, because this thing with Eviolite is crazy bulky, and this thing can live hits all day, every day from Salamence. Not to mention, if it traces Intimidate, that just further cripples Salamence. Not to mention, this Pokemon has access to Ice Beam, and pretty much any bulky Pokemon that have access to Ice Beam will 2-hit KO, if not 1-hit KO Salamence, depending if they run any special attack investment or not. Cresselia is another example of that, because it can run Ice Beam, and it's really, really damn bulky. Like I said, same with Porygon 2. Both Pokemon are extremely bulky in their own right. and they both can carry Ice Beam, which are both very common, I might add, and can easily smoke out Salamence. Fairy-type Pokemon, I mean, that's kind of a given. Fairy-type Pokemon are immune to Dragon-type coverage, but they gotta watch out for Iron Tail. Steel-type Pokemon are also another example of counters, but they need to watch out for Fire Blast. And also, some Steel-type Pokemon, such as Empoleon, do need to watch out for the likes of Earthquake, because if they're not running a Shucca Berry, then they're going to be 2-hit KO'd by it. It's, you know, it's that simple. You also have Bulky-Water-type Pokemon as a really good way of countering and checking them, such as the likes of Vaporeon, Suicune, you know, just to name a few. These two Pokemon are extremely crazy bulky, and the two of them can run Ice Beam. You can run Sub-Combine Suicune and have Scald and Ice Beam. You can have Vaporeon be a physically defensive set with Ice Beam and, you know, some utility and Wish, Protect, and Scald or something like that. Another way to check and counter this Pokemon would be the use of Stealth Rocks. Now, I will say, this is probably the least check/counter on the list that Salamence has to worry about, because, I mean, while it does take away 25% of the HP of Salamence, depending on the kind of set that Salamence runs, it has really nothing to worry about when it comes to Stealth Rocks, but that's just me. Feel free to disagree with me. I will say, though, that if you are running low on health and Stealth Rocks are on the field, then that is when Salamence is going to be very, very, very vulnerable and very much susceptible to being revenge killed. Faster Pokemon are also a great way to check and counter Salamence, such as Mega Sceptile, Mega Aerodactyl, Choice Scarf users, you know, just to name a few. And then you also have priority users such as Ice Shard from Mega Abomasnow, Choice Band, Extreme Speed from Entei, Mega Absol, and Sucker Punch, you know, things like that. So you can tell right here that this Pokemon does have its fair share of checks and counters to worry about when it comes to battling. But I will say that when it comes to some of these checks and counters, they are somewhat unlikely and extremely situational, such as when it comes to Fairy-type Pokemon, because they need to watch out for Iron Tail, Steel-type Pokemon, because there are things like Fire Blast and Earthquake to worry about. So, I mean, they can't just recklessly switch in, because if they don't know that Salamence is hacking one of those moves, then there could be trouble. And that's kind of another reason why Salamence is being suspect tested, is because of its unpredictability and versatility. I mean, we go back to the sets up here. I mean, you got your Choice Scarf set, you have your defensive Fatment set here, you also have your all-attacking, specially based mixed attacker set, and you have your physically based mixed attacking / setup set with max attack, max speed, and it's just ridiculously crazy. But with all that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next section of the video. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so the last portion of this video is going to be showcasing some examples of Pokemon that could effectively check and counter the likes of Salamence in battle 1 vs 1. And the first Pokemon that comes to mind for me happens to be Bronzong, due to the fact that with its combination of its typing and its ability Levitate, it is resistant to its Dragon-type stabs, and it's immune to the likes of Earthquake, which would otherwise be super effective against Bronzong. However, you do have to watch out for Fire Blast, but the thing of it is that if Salamence does not run Fire Blast, then that's when Bronzong is pretty much good to go when it comes to countering this thing. So, the set that I have here is a special defensive Bronzong to allow for it to take special hits better from Salamence, such as Fire Blast. And even though it's super effective, if there's no special attack investment, then Bronzong isn't going to be phased that much by the likes of Fire Blast. And the thing could essentially Toxic Stall it with Toxic Protect and then Gyro Ball it into Oblivion. And given the fact that this thing has a really bad speed stat, and Salamence has actually a very good speed stat, that actually makes Gyro Ball a pretty effective weapon against the likes of Salamence. But this right here is just my opinion. Moving on, we have Mega Aggron. Now, I have a pretty unique set that is ran on Mega Aggron, and it's actually suggested by Smogon as a set to run on Mega Aggron, and this is the Curse Rest Talk Heavy Slam set. Now, you take the EV spread, which is max HP and max special defense, coupled with its ability Filter, it is going to be taking hits for days, even super effective hits. Now, mind you, this thing, even with full special defensive investment, is not going to be able to appreciate taking too many Fire Blasts, because this thing is not going to like the fact that its special defense, although fully invested, is still exploitable in comparison to its ridiculously base 230 physical defense. Now, the thing can take on Salamence 1 vs 1 if it lacks Fire Blast, because the thing could just set up Curse and 1 vs 1 Salamence and match its Dragon Dance boost with Curse boosts, and take it out with Heavy Slam after accumulating a few Curse boosts. Now, that right there is another example of a Pokemon that potentially walls and counters Salamence 1 vs 1. Now, up next, we have Empoleon. And Empoleon is a special little Pokemon here. Now, you might not think that Empoleon is that good of a Pokemon against Salamence, but hear me out on this. If Salamence lacks Earthquake, and sometimes it does, Empoleon can 1 vs 1 this Pokemon and take it out with an Ice Beam. And given the fact that this thing has a pretty respectable base 111 special attack, this thing is very, very scary to face off against if you are Salamence and you're not carrying some sort of steel type coverage with ground type moves like Earthquake or something like that, and it could take you out with one Ice Beam, right? Plain and simple. And this here is a pretty unique set. I mean, this is a physical defensive set with some special attack investment because we want to have some sort of offensive presence, even though we're more of a defensive utility set with Defog and Roar. We do have Scald as a way for you to have Water type stab, and then we have Ice Beam to counter the likes of Salamence and be able to counter any Pokemon that would otherwise threaten Empoleon, such as Grass type Pokemon, such as Ground type Pokemon, things like that. Now, coming up next, we have a Pokemon that is a bona fide counter to the likes of Salamence, and that is Cresselia. Cresselia is a crazy Pokemon. It is so damn bulky. I mean, the thing can just spam Ice Beam against Salamence and 1 vs 1 it. I mean, with max HP, max defense, it's going to be taking outrages for days. And any damage that it sustains, you can just heal up with Moonlight. Yes, it has 8 power points, but it restores 50% of its maximum health depending on the kind of weather it has. And you also can cripple it with Thunder Wave and outspeed it almost every turn, depending on whether or not it's set to like +6 or something like that, and it can somehow outspeed you. But if it's set up to +6, you're kind of screwed anyways. So don't let Salamence set up to +6. But yes, this right here is just another example of a Pokemon that can easily counter this thing. And Porygon 2 is also another example of a Pokemon that can easily counter Salamence because, similar to what Cresselia can do, you can just paralyze it with Thunder Wave and then take it out with Ice Beam. Not to mention with the ability Trace, can trace out Intimidate and cut down its attack stat even further. And with an EV spread like this and Eviolite boosting your defenses and special defense, you're going to be hard to take down regardless of whether Salamence hits you from the physical side or the special side. So, not much else can really be said about Porygon 2, because it is just a ridiculously powerful Pokemon that checks and counters a lot of Pokemon effectively in the underused tier. Now, coming up next, we have Suicune. Now, this set specifically is meant to counter the likes of Salamence 1 vs 1, because of the fact that you're running almost max HP, max defense, and you have a little bit of speed, just so that you'll be able to outspeed some slower Pokemon that are walls that would give Suicune some trouble. But get this, we have Substitute and Calm Mind, and you could easily set up a Calm Mind against Salamence, take a hit from Outrage, and then go for Ice Beam and essentially one-hit KO it, and is easily be able to exploit its 4 times weakness to Ice-type attacks. So this right here are some examples, but let's see if we can find some other Pokemon that could effectively be counters to the likes of Salamence. So let's go and scroll down here. So you could run a physically defensive Mega Blastoise if you want, and have like Ice Beam or something like that, and essentially one-hit KO it. Because I mean, like if you take a look, at these numbers here, and we just go ahead and give some investments and give a Bull Nature, where are you at? Bull Nature, and you have Ice Beam. Let's see here, you got Ice Beam, yeah. And you take a look at its uninvested base 135 special attack, you could easily knock it out in one hit, but that's just my opinion right here. Another good example would be, let's see, I know I had another one here. Well, Donphan is a pretty good Pokemon 1v1 versus Salamence. If it runs something like Ice Shard and it's like Choice Band or something like that. Let's see. Gligar can take hits but can't really do anything. You could run a physically defensive Gyarados and have like Roar or Thunder Wave or Taunt or something like that. Could be possible here. Let's see what else here. We got, you could run physically defensive Crocodile with Intimidate and have like Roar or Dragon Tail or something like that. Let's see what else. What do we got here? Metagross could be good with Ice Punch, but it would appreciate taking super effective Fire Blasts and Earthquakes. Although you could run Assault Vest to patch up its rather mediocre base 90 special defense in comparison to its base 130 defense. But, you know, that's just me. What else we got here? You could have Sableye with Priority Will-O-Wisp. However, it does get exposed pretty easily to base 110, not super effective, I almost said super effective Draco Meteor, but it's going to take a lot of damage from Draco Meteor. It is going to hurt. So let's see here. So we got ourselves, Fairy types are a given. Fairy types are easily a Pokemon that can counter Salamence if it lacks the likes of Iron Tail. You also have Vaporeon, which, you know, you can run physically defensive, have Ice Beam, things like that. Like, just look at these numbers here. Look at these numbers. So you got really high HP and really respectable base 60 defense with max investment, and look at that. You're going to be a pretty damn hard Pokemon to take down with numbers like that. But anyways, my friends, that right there is just a few examples of Pokemon that I feel could do a good job of countering Salamence 1v1. But let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section down below. Do you guys agree? Do you guys disagree? You know, just like I said before, you know, if you disagree with me, let me know in the comment section down below. Let's spark up some discussion, because I love hearing from you guys. And also keep in mind, once again, with a section like this and with videos like this that do contain some opinions of mine, please take what I say with a pinch of salt, as like I said, this is just my opinion and nothing more. That's it. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I do apologize for it being a little bit longer than usual, but Salamence is a pretty versatile Pokemon, so there was quite a bit of discussion to go over when it comes to Salamence. So with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you fire off a like. Let's see if we can aim for 15 likes. And if you want more content like this, make sure you rate, comment, share this video, and subscribe today to Mega Crasher and the community for the best Pokemon Sun and Moon news hype that there is today on YouTube. Because you know the deal by now, my friends. When we're a community type pack time is one, you know that we shine brighter than the sun and the moon combined. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next episode.